so in love with you. You got me down again.
We've arrived. We're in one of the most historic small cities in the country. From the Civil War to two of the earliest traffic lanes used to transit this great country, the Santa Fe Trail and Oregon Trail. We're in the heart of art, culture, and education, but most importantly, come on, we're in the epicenter of college freaking basketball. Where in the world is DNL? Welcome to Lawrence, Kansas. There's a party on Mass Street. Let's go. So we're out in front of one of the most famous college bars in the country, The Wheel here in Lawrence, Kansas. Now this building here was opened in 1906 as a bookstore. In 1955, they converted it to what's called the Wagon Wheel Restaurant, also known as The Wheel, which, like I said, has become one of the most famous college bars in the country. Now the Wheel itself is famous for the Wang Burger.
You thought it was in Lawrence because Abaji was all hopped up on Wang burgers from The Wheel. Oh my! Put a double fried egg on that wanger right there. Wang dang doodle, take another look. Woo-hoo. I got a feeling that's going to be in top plays. Kansas.
Wang Burger is a bacon cheeseburger with a fried egg on top. We're going to go get a taste right now. 2 Wang Burgers.
Fries.
Fries will work, yeah.
The party at The Wheel has begun. Nobby serving up the Wang burgers.
We're at Allen Fieldhouse, one of the most famous venues in all of sports. It's home to the KU Jayhawks, the 2022 national champions. This is an amazing venue. In fact, it recently held a Guinness Book of World Records for the loudest indoor arena.
What'd you say?
Now, it was opened in 1955, the first year of Wilt Chamberlain, and it's still rocking and rolling. Let's go see what it's like inside. Megan, we are super pumped to be here in Lawrence, Kansas today. You know, we're going into the homes and offices of some of our agents to profile, their lives. But we're also sitting down with some experts in certain arenas. And that's why we're really excited to be chatting with you today. First things first, though, before we get to who is Megan, we're in Lawrence, Kansas. Like I said, we are super pumped to be here. We are actually at the Lawrence Beer Co. It's one of the fastest growing breweries in the Midwest. It's a great spot if you're ever in the Lawrence, Kansas area. But I know you spent some time in Lawrence, have some very fond memories here. Tell me what you love about this town.
So I came to my undergraduate here in Lawrence.
Okay, at the University of Kansas.
University of Kansas, yep. And I'm a third generation Jayhawk. My grandfather came to KU. My parents both went to KU. That's where they met. And my husband and I both went to KU. So no pressure to our kids. We'll see what they choose to do. But it's just such a fun town. I have a lot of fond memories of, the basketball. Obviously, today is a super exciting day. The day that we're filming, the day after we won the national championship here in Lawrence. So fun. But yeah, a lot of fond memories, like the traditions and just the way that everyone just rallies together around Jayhawk basketball and a lot of the other fun things that are here in Lawrence on Mass Street, the restaurants, the different bars and breweries, and there's just so much fun, so many fun things to do here. It's just a really good time.
It is a great town. A lot of history here. Tell me about yourself. Who is Megan Galloway?
Yeah, I grew up in Kansas City and then went to KU for my undergrad. And after I graduated, I really had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So ended up getting into HR.
Okay.
And through HR, kind of found a love for training and development, and most specifically developing leaders. So I spent a lot of time in the leadership development space over the last 10 years and growing learning and development programs for companies that have never had them before. So that's been really fun, working for a couple different construction companies and then a bank. And then about 6 months ago, I decided to go off and start my own business and do some consulting in this space as well. So done that for about 6 months. And then in the last couple of months, I've also joined a startup.
That's awesome. And I love that story about the fact that, number one, you are an entrepreneur yourself, because a lot of our viewers and a lot of our brokerage agents are just that. They're entrepreneurs. But also that you're now engaged in a startup. There's a lot of challenges with that. Tell me a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur and what scared you. What were your challenges?
I honestly wasn't expecting to start my own business when I did. And then when I launched into it, I think the biggest thing that was just really challenging was how scary it is to not know what's coming. There's just this sense of being out of control in some instances, whereas when you're like in a corporate job that there's these bounds around, it feels safer. I've spent a lot of time deciding how I wanted my life to look, and then trying to craft my business around that instead of just doing kind of what was expected. There's a lot of things that you have no idea how to do, so you have to learn really fast. Some of the mistakes you make are really hard to make, so you have to learn how to overcome those quickly and move on fast from those mistakes, which is sometimes really hard.
When you assessed your career as an entrepreneur, right? You mentioned you took an assessment of how you wanted your life to look. Expand on that a little bit. What does that mean?
Society's kind of defined how our lives look for the most part in so many different ways and the ways that we have to work. And that's changed a lot over the last couple of years, and particularly with the pandemic. So taking a look at all of that, I think that one of the things that was really important for me, I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Okay.
It was really important for me to be able to spend the amount of time that I wanted with my kids.
Right.
And to be the kind of mom that I wanted to be. And I was finding that as I was in the corporate world, like it didn't just match with the way that I was looking for at the time. So I decided to just take a little bit more control over my situation. And it's scarier, I think, because you have more responsibility, whether things are successful or not. So that's one of the hard parts about being an entrepreneur. But it's been really fulfilling because then I feel like I'm able to build a life for me and my kids and my family that I really want to have.
Megan, when you and I first met each other and first talked, you said some things that really hit home for me and I thought were really neat, powerful concepts. One thing you talked about was this concept of self-awareness.
I think that self-awareness is about knowing who you are and how you react in different situations, and I think more importantly, like how that affects the people that are around you. So one of the things that's really hard about self-awareness is I think everyone thinks that they're very self-aware, and research has told us that statistically only 10% of people are actually self-aware, but the number of people that believe that they are is a lot higher than that. So there's a large gap in the abilities of people to have that self-awareness.
If I think I'm self-aware and I'm not, how do I get there?
I think if you really look at how you respond to people in different situations, particularly really hard situations, what things are triggers for you? Where do you show up and you're really proud of the way that you showed up in hard situations? Leaning into those and really discovering what your values are, what's important to you, and then how you demonstrate those on a day-to-day is something that can be really helpful for us to understand. Maybe all of us make mistakes. Maybe we react to things in a way that we wish we didn't react in that way. So one of the things that I really encourage people to do is to spend some time opening up to the people around them and asking them for feedback about ways that they can show up a little bit differently or ways that they can be more helpful in certain ways. And that's one area that can be really helpful for people as they look at how they do their work on a regular basis.
I agree, and one thing you said there that I think is important is in order to become self-aware, you have to figure out what you value. That can be a hard lesson sometimes, because if you really try to digest what you value, the answer may not be, what you think it's going to be.
I think, it's hard because I also think that what we value changes over time.
That's true.
10 years ago, I think I was so career-minded. Like that was the sole purpose of my value system, I felt, was to go out there and do good in the world and make progress in my career. 10 years later, I have young children, and I view my career in such a different way because of my values. I want to create a better corporate America, a better working place for people in our generation and future generations and beyond by the time my kids get to the workplace. So kind of, I think as you have these life experiences and as you're able to have an understanding about why things are important to you as you go through them and you go through different experiences.
Megan, somewhat related to what you were saying is this idea that high performers and high achievers in the workplace, they're consistent and they're purposeful with how they approach each day. If you were talking to someone who said, hey, when I sit at my desk in the morning, what should I be thinking about? How should I approach my day? What would you tell these folks?
One practice that I've started that I've found super helpful is I have my to-do list every day, which every one of us does, that's a mile long. And then I also have my to-be list. What do I want to be today? Like, how do I want to respond to things? Who do I want to show up as? Part of what I want to do, especially for really important meetings, or maybe I know it's going to be a challenging conversation, is I'll write a couple of words on a Post-it note of who I want to be in that meeting, how I want the other people to perceive me.
Okay.
So that way I can just try to be really, and then I either stick it like next to the phone or next to the computer monitor or wherever it is that's going to be a visual reminder for me of how I want to be on a regular basis. So that's, at the end of the day, like, business is business. What makes it, I think, people really fulfilled and successful at the end of the day is who they are as they go about their business.
You know, I love that because, I find that when you get later into the day, mentally and physically, you start to wear out a little bit, and you look at your afternoon and you say, hey, I've got to make this call, or I've got this tough conversation I got to have with this customer. I'm really worn out. I think it can be very useful to do this, you call it to-be, right? To-be list.
The to-be list.
Because that can kind of redirect your attention, get it off of your fatigue, and maybe redirect it onto, let me focus on who I want to be during this call. One thing that you and I talked about a little bit was it's easy in high stress environments to have feelings of burnout. How do you suggest folks in that situation that might be facing that situation, like, oh my gosh, I got to power through this again today? How do you suggest folks approach those situations?
Yeah, I think it's all about, like, if you think about your energy like a gas tank, like anything else, that's what gas is, right, is energy. And as we go throughout our days and we go through challenging situations and we have stressful moments and we check things off of our to-do list, we're continually, like, depleting the gas in our tank. And I think a lot of people have the tendency, I know I do at least, where I just kind of like keep going and I keep pedal to the metal until there's like literally nothing left in the gas tank. So one of the things that I've been trying to do is find spaces in my day. I generally don't have a lot of them. I'm a working mom. I've got little toddlers.
Absolutely.
I have my own business, and I'm working for a startup. Like, there's just a lot going on in my life. And so sometimes it's only 5 minutes or 15 minutes. Other times I get larger spaces, but I think of it like space in general, like how I can create spaces in my life where I can just be me and find things that really recharge me. So my tendency, if I've got a free space in the day, is to check my email or respond to messages or texts or respond to a phone call or what have you. And I try to be really intentional about doing things that actually recharge me so that I can hit it harder later in the day when I know that I've got like important things coming up. So I'll spend 10 minutes and do yoga in my bedroom really quickly because that's something that might recharge me.
Right.
Or just go outside for 5 minutes and take a phone call outside because that's a change of pace that I needed throughout the day.
Megan, thank you so much for joining us today. Your expertise has given us some really good takeaways that can lead to a better life. So we really appreciate it. If viewers want to look you up or find out a little bit more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, thanks. I'm super active on LinkedIn, so you can find me there at Megan Galloway, and I post regularly about leadership development or emotional intelligence topics there. And then the startup I'm with is called Campfire, and that's a safe space for managers to learn from each other in a community-based environment, and that's at getcampfire.com.
Getcampfire.com. Well, Megan Galloway, thank you so much. We'll have those links in the description, and we really appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Rock Chalk.
Whew, what a day. We got our college basketball fix at Allen Fieldhouse. We tested our skills and got to see the original rules of basketball. We threw down a famous Wang burger at the wheel, and we witnessed a national championship party. Let's wash this day down with a pint at the oldest brewery in Kansas, Free State Brewing Company. We'll see you next time on Where in the World is D&L?